then you're literally like lit up and ready to go into the day. So you're more energized, you're more clear-headed, you're having less tension, having less pain, you're more on point throughout the day, you're activating the higher centers of your brain, you're deregulating, you're calming your nervous system. So you're shifting out of stress, out of fight or flight into, the more focused, creative, imaginative, just generally nicer person to be around sort of aspect of your personality.
All right, Megan, I am so excited to have you on and to be able to chat with you. I know you and I met in James Wedmore's BBD. We were like chit-chatting about retreats and stuff. And then we had just a chit-chat call and we are like, oh my gosh, we connect, we resonate. Like so much of our stuff aligns. So I'm so excited to have you here and to be able to share all about creating a morning routine that really sets you up for success and works with you and maybe is a bit different than what most morning routines or miracle mornings or all those types of things are kind of setting us up for. So I'm excited to dive in with that. Thanks for coming on.
Yay. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I'm super excited to dive into it too.
Yeah. So for those that are maybe brand new to you, and even I feel like I don't know you a ton, will you mind sharing just a little bit about your story? Like, how did you get to this place about being really passionate? I know you do a lot of different things in your business, but one specifically is really helping support people have a very holistic morning routine and really setting up their day that way. So how did you get here?
Great question. Thank you. And I think the starting point of that story is one that maybe yourself and many of your listeners can relate to. I literally got to the point where I was so freaking exhausted that all I could do for my quote unquote morning routine at that time was lay on the yoga mat and cry. So burnt out, so drained, so depleted, so anxious, so sad, so confused, so spiraling into doubt of all of, am I even cut out to be an entrepreneur? I don't know if this is working. Like all of it was going on in my head, in my body, in my spirit. And it was clear to me at that point that I couldn't, nor did I want to continue on with this.
Yeah.
And I literally was having the story of like, maybe it's time. Maybe it's time. I'm just going to go get that job. Like, I don't know if I can hack it. This is too much. Literally to that point. And I recognize, thank you, guidance from the universe. Like, hello, we need to take a different route.
Yeah.
This is not working. And recognize that I didn't have any boundaries around what I was saying yes to. And B, I really completely felt out of integrity with what I was doing and how I was doing it, because as a personal trainer, yoga instructor, mental fitness coach, there I was not practicing what I preached. And caveat to that is that there are times, there are seasons. Sometimes our energy is up, sometimes it's less. And we're going to talk more about this, but there are times when that's what it is, right? It's just to lay there and witness and be in the moment. And that's beautiful. That's so important. And that's a huge part of morning routines, 100%. But I felt out of integrity because there I was helping other people to exercise, do the yoga, do the meditation, all the things. And there I was, literally, I had nothing and I wasn't doing that. And I realized, okay, clearly my priorities are off. Clearly the cup is empty and cracked at the bottom.
Yes.
Like, this is not working. And so I recognized that in order for me to show up authentically, playfully, vibrantly myself, which is, who I am and how I want to show up for my community and my clients, that the first thing that had to happen each day was taking care of myself. And as women, and many of your listeners might be moms or parents, there can be a lot of things on our time, and we tend to be really caregivers and very, service oriented and wanting to help, wanting to serve, all of that. And so I believe that the most important thing that you can do is literally make yourself and your health and how you feel a priority, so that you can show up in full alignment and in full like energetic fire and your vibrancy of who you are, so that you can do all those things, right? And it's not a selfish activity. It's a very, very powerful and necessary activity. And I believe ultimately, now that I'm like so into it myself and with my clients, is that a meaningful morning routine is actually the foundation for your holistic health and success. So that's a little bit how I got here and what I'm doing and all of that.
Yeah. Well, I think it's so funny, as I think that there is a lot of entrepreneurs out there that are talking about like, this is the ideal, this is the success, like this is how you do it. But on the back end, they're either burning themselves out trying to do it, or whatnot. And I even recently was in a group or a Facebook somewhere. I saw like some men talking about how there are seasons when you have to sacrifice yourself. Like there are seasons where you put your health and your things on the back burner to be able to pursue your goals. And it like made me so cringy inside because I'm like, why do we feel like we have to strive for this level of success? And even recently, so I have two of my grandparents have passed away, and my dad sent me a text recently. He's like, I was sitting in my office looking at all I've created and all I've built, and for what? Like, what is it going to mean when I'm gone? Right. And to think that we see it happen so many times, like entrepreneurs spending so much and burning themselves out so much to achieve some level of success. And at the end of the day, what is that going to actually mean? Right. So I think that's where you and I landed, and why we resonated is because so much of both of our messages are about building your goals, going after creating the success, being a high performer, but doing it in a very holistic way, and doing it in a way I always tell my clients is about enjoying life along the journey and then in the process, not just waiting for it to happen when you reach that end destination. It's about creating that meaningful moment and creating that success right now as you're going towards that, building that goals. So I think that's where you and I, we see that same kind of space of we don't have to make all these massive sacrifices. There are seasons, right? And I know you highlighted on that too. There are definitely seasons of push, and there's definitely seasons of like hustle, but there's also those seasons of pulling back, and that we have to have the dynamic dance of both. And that it's not just we're not like magically robots that just stay on all the time. So, I think that that's beautiful. So tell us a little bit more about morning routines. Like, what is it? Why are morning routines so valuable and so important?
Well, that's a great question, and there's a lot of answers for that. And touching on something that you said earlier, we do see it. It's definitely a hot thing that people talk about. I mean, Tony's got one, and Oprah's got one, and Brandon's got one, and all the things. And the reality is there's a reason why they all have it. And you don't necessarily have to follow the 5-minute miracle or whatever it is for you to have the morning routine. I think intuitively, it's really what is best for you, depending on where you're at in your cycle and your energy and your launch cycle, all the things. But why it's so important is from a variety of reasons. And let's talk about your physical body. Because the thing about entrepreneurs is that we tend to be very action taking, very in the mind, right? Like, oh, I have these visions, I have these goals, and here I go, and da, 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 da. And we forget sometimes that you actually are inhabiting a beautiful body, and it has needs as well. And one of its needs is actually movement. The human being was not really designed to be sitting in a chair and slouching over a keyboard all day. Yet most of us do it. We're both sitting right now. Like we do a lot of it. And the reason why your body may be complaining quietly or quite loudly about sitting is because it's not ideal. And the reality is that when we sit and we spend a lot of time in weak posture, let's just call it out, weak posture, aka the ouchy slouchy posture, where we're hunched over the keyboard and you look like you're about to like crunch over and fall asleep. It really is taking a toll physically on us. Very likely you've heard about, sitting is the new smoking. The impact of it is so like potentially risk factor because of the negative effects that it has on us. Correlate on par with smoking, which is kind of scary, yet we all do it a whole heck of a lot. And so when you start your day with movement, which is a key element of a meaningful morning routine, moving your body, getting into strong alignment, physical alignment, right? We'll talk about the emotional and the energetic alignment, which is definitely directly impacted by your physical alignment. You're getting your body into strong posture so that when you're in that posture and you're feeling good, you're activating the energy of, yeah, look at me go. I'm about to cross that finish line, press that go live button. Here I go, walk on the stage, whatever it is. It's a very different energy than like, okay, here we go. I'm going to get that phone and go to TikTok. And so your body has needs to ensure that you are at full vitality on a physical level. So there's that, which probably might be enough for some people. But when you oxygenate your body and you're getting things moving, guess what's included in that? Of course, your brain is included in that. So exercise first thing in the morning is actually directly impacting your productivity, potentially by upwards of 72%, which is a rather significant increase. And so when we have that energetic fire, if you will, whether you want to call it your metabolism or just your inner fire, both are activated when you do it, then you're literally like lit up and ready to go into the day. So you're more energized, you're more clear-headed, you're having less tension, having less pain, you're more on point throughout the day, you're activating the higher centers of your brain, you're deregulating, you're calming your nervous system, so you're shifting out of stress, out of fight or flight, into the more focused, creative, imaginative, just generally nicer person to be around sort of aspect of your personality. So there's that. And then there's also the fact that you deserve some of your time and attention. And when you give yourself some loving attention, whether that is like a minute and a half while you're standing there and brushing your teeth, or half an hour, or maybe you do a power hour, whatever it is, right? It's all individual. It's like you can stretch it out, you can condense it. You are spending some time with arguably one of the most important people in your life, right? And nurturing that relationship with yourself. And so really being intentional about how you show up. And so I think that, from a scientific and from an energetic perspective and a productivity perspective, performance perspective, brain hacking perspective, there's a few reasons why they're important.
Yeah. Well, and I love that you kind of talked about like how your energy shifts and how it changes with that movement too, because I see that so often. I've had many of my clients come to me and they're like, hey, I'm in the phase of my month when I should have this high level of energy. I should feel really great, but I'm just not. I'm kind of feeling sluggish and I'm feeling low key. And so we kind of do like a map of like, what does your day look like? And oftentimes it's like, I'm in yoga pants. I'm kind of doing stuff around my house. And like, that is encouraging a low level of energy. Like when you get up, when you're in that like prime energy phase, let's support it. Let's get up and take a shower, do a workout, like get yourself moving and all of those things, like energy boosters right at the beginning of the day, because that's going to help support the energy the rest of the day. And regardless of what phase of the month you're in, movement in the morning is great. And I see it happen over and over and over again for my clients, but definitely in those phases, when your body is in that energy prime, movement will set the tone for the whole rest of the day. And I think that that's, for me, the one thing I've learned about morning routines is that it sets the tone for the whole rest of your day. So if you start your morning in a really sluggish, low energy state, that could manifest throughout the rest of the day, versus you started out feeling really productive and feeling really great and feeling energized and on fire. That's going to set it for the rest of the day too. So we have that capability. I know I recently recorded a podcast about morning routines, and I talked about like daily rhythms and how our circadian rhythms and our energy levels change throughout the day. And we have like 90-minute cycles. And so I had put it out there, and I would love to hear your take on that. But I put out there that in that high energy phase, so like in our estrogen dominant phase, I recommended not doing the morning routine first thing in the morning, to do it after that first 90-minute wave. So for example, like when I get up in that estrogen dominant phase, I feel like on fire and ready to go. And so I will come and I'll sit down, like usually like 5:30, 6:00 in the morning, whatever. I'll sit down and I'll get really high priority tasks done and out of the way when when my brain focus and that energy spike is there. And then when the spike dips is when I go then to my morning routine. And then I flip flop that in my progesterone dominant phase. So in my progesterone dominant phase, I give myself that slower morning to start out with my morning routine and then get into the workload. But I found that I get so much more done productivity wise when I do it that way, because I'm riding that natural energy wave. And then when my energy is dipping, then I get into movement and doing my morning routine. And then versus when I did it the other way, I sit down to get work done and I'm at that low energy lull anyway. So I don't know if that kind of came across for you totally, but I would be kind of curious to hear what your thoughts on that, because for me, I noticed a huge shift when I stopped focusing on doing that morning routine first thing in the morning, just in that phase of my month.
I love that. I love that you are so in tune that you are aware of those cycles and your own energy during those cycles, because I'm of the belief that there's no one routine, there's no one strategy, there's no one way for everybody. And there's no one way for each of us throughout the course of our month, especially as women, because there is such a variance with that. So I think that using that as a guidance, like having those different cycles throughout your month, and that awareness and being able to intuitively follow that and switch that up accordingly is brilliant, because then you're following your own natural cycles.
Yeah.
And really what's important, and the whole premise, like the whole underlying premise of having a morning routine, is self-care and self-nurturing and self-awareness and ultimately self-love. And so the more aligned that you can be with that, the better. And the more willing to be flexible with it, because sometimes, we get this sort of like, oh, well, I heard Tony's is the best way, so I'm going to do Tony Robbins's, da, 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 da. And then we're like, this sucks. It's not even fun. It doesn't feel good for me, but I have to do it,
Yes.
and then there is this obligation to it. And maybe somebody listens to this podcast and they're like all fired up about it. And then they're like, I don't know how that's going to work for me. The thing is that there's many tools, there's many elements, and you get to play with what works for you. And what you're doing there, that I heard you say, not only following the natural curve of your energy, but also using the tool set of the morning routine, which does not have to be done at 5 a.m. to be effective, can do it whenever it works for you, is the fact that it is generating that inner energy. And so by placing it intuitively, when you're noticing the slump, then you're feeding yourself with a natural source of energy with movement, right? You're moving your prana, which is in yoga what we call our inner energy, or your chi, or your vitality. You're moving your prana and you're stoking your inner fire, rather than going for yet another espresso. I love coffee. I'm not talking, bad about it, but like going for another external source of like, help, I'm so tired, help me. You're generating that inner energy that you're seeking yourself by placing the routine intentionally when you start to notice yourself dipping.
Yeah. Well, 100%. And I noticed too, like so many people go to those extra stimulants at certain points. And I'm like, you guys, those are normal. Those dips are normal. Like rather than just looking for an external stimulant, like you said, tap into what does your body need right then? How can you lean into it? How can you listen to it? And I think that is a big part of what you talk about too. And I think just being a yogi, that's a big part of that, is like listening to your body. So would you say that there are certain things that you would recommend for everybody's morning routine? Or I know movement, obviously, you said. Is there there isn't a perfect morning routine for every single person. So what would be those big things that you would recommend to everybody for a morning routine? Or is there?
Well, great question. And yes, that's like my cheeky answer to what is the best morning routine? Well, it's the one you're actually going to do, right? And so having some general ideas of what that might look like for you, that's really powerful. So what I believe a morning routine is truly a practice of generating your own energy, aligning with your vision, and really intentionally showing up in your day. So I call it your purposeful powerhouse practice. So there's elements to that that really, from an entrepreneur perspective, business owner perspective, actually will feed your success when you integrate these, that also are simultaneously nurturing you as a human, as a multi-layered being. So the first element is to expand your vision. So that's when we're talking about connecting to your goals. So in this element is when you can do, maybe you like doing meditation. Maybe you like doing visualization or gratitude. Like there's lots of ways that you can play with that element. I like to start out with a gratitude list of, things that are existing, and then move into all the things that I'm creating and cultivating, manifesting in my life, and then allow that to flow into powerful statements of intention. And I like tapping. Not everybody does, just like the light tapping, because it's very calming. Because what you're doing when you do visualization and vision casting like that is you're giving your mind a clear picture for what is to come, and you're making it safe in your nervous system. Because anything that's outside of your comfort zone is like, alert, this is scary, and your brain's like, don't stop her. What? Tell her, no, she's going to screw it up again. Like whatever, it's going to do all that it can to stop you. And so when you have that expanding the vision, what you're doing is literally giving your brain the experience and a map of it. So that's the why, because I know very likely, based on how much beautiful science you share, that your listeners would probably like to know why that's important for you to do, right? So that's really a little bit of the science behind it from a subconscious mind perspective. So play with what you want in there to expand your vision and connect to your goals, right? And so then the second element is to experience it now. You're an energetic creature, right? You have a measurable energy field around you, and the stronger you are within yourself, the bigger and brighter that field is. So how can you use your movement practice to begin to experience that energy, that frequency, right? Assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled. So many different ways to say that. And so that's where you integrate the movement practices. So whether that's with yoga or dancing or cardio or strength training or whatever it is to move your body into that strong, powerful alignment. Right. Because if you're going to get to just like do your workout and then go sit in the chair all day, really important is that you're holding strong posture. You're energizing your muscles, particularly one you sit on. We're both sitting on it right now, so waking up your sleeping booty, doing all the things so that your body feels good, so that you head into the day with that essence about you, that confidence about you.
Yeah.
And then that can be whatever. If you're not into yoga, who cares? Don't do yoga. Like do whatever feels good for you, right? And some days it's going to be like you said, it's like, yeah, let's go do cardio, let's have a dance. And some days it's like, okay, I'm just being here right now. That's totally fine. It's like there's so many variances to it that as long as you're good with it and as long as you're taking care of yourself, that's ultimately the whole reason behind all of this. And then finally, so we have expand the vision, experience it now. And then from that place of that embodiment, giving it form in your body, you're feeling aligned, you're feeling energized, you're feeling grounded. Then we decide on some action steps. How can you exhale it into your life? How can you give it life with your breath, with your energy, with your intentions, right? Because we can get really sidetracked with like the mile-long to-do list, which we all probably have. We're like, oh, but I'm going to do this, and we're like, and we freeze.
Yeah.
And so from that place of groundedness, what are 3 things? Start with 3. You'll probably end up doing more, but start with 3. What are you going to do today?
Yeah.
Write them down. This is where we start to integrate some of the brain hacking elements. Write them down, write them on paper. And then once they're done, cross them off. And here's another little step with that is like, celebrate it. It doesn't have to be like, a mani-pedi. It's literally just a celebration. Like, yes, all right, here we go. What am I going to do now? And a fun thing that I like to do for myself, all of my clients are grown adults, but they all do some of these. You maybe can't see them if you're just listening to the audio, but they are gold star stickers. Literally the best $3 you will ever spend is to get yourself some stickers and slap those suckers everywhere. Because what you're looking to do, like I'm looking at one right now, like in the camera, and they're everywhere in my life because I practice what I preach for sure. But when you were in grade 3 and your teacher gave you one, you like literally got the brightest little smile on your face. The thing is that it's one of those things we're hardwired to really like.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things that can also be a little bit challenging for us to do is learn to celebrate ourselves.
Yeah.
So something this simple is so, so powerful. And it's a visual reminder, right? Because when you look at your day planner, if you use, like the old school day planner where you write stuff down, when you look at it and you see it on there, you're like, ooh, yay, look at me. I'm a little light on the stars this week. Maybe I just, and it's like, that's why they put like all those stickers in like cool day planners is because it's fun.
Yeah.
Like when it's fun, it like makes it, something more likely. So those are the key elements with some other little suggestions in there for you.
Yeah. Well, I love that you brought up the stickers because I've been working with a coach and it was talking about like manifesting and like what your dream vision was and whatever. And for some reason in one of her like one of her visualizations, what came up for me was this like little village like in Tuscany, like, right. Like to have this little house and to be able to spend extended periods of time of like just relaxing and just living in Italy. And so I left there and was like, wow, I've never really envisioned that would be where I would want to go or that would be a goal or whatever. But I'm like, I'm going to run with it. And so somehow my family downloaded Duolingo. So each of me and my kids, we all have a different language that we're learning. And so we've been playing with Duolingo, and in Duolingo, it's got all of these like leaderboards. You get certain coins, you get gems, you get ranked, like you move up and like, it's like the gamify, right? The gamify this whole thing and you get special stars, like whatever. And I realized how motivated I was to continue to learn this thing. And like, I recently I had like a 40-day streak and I was like doing really well. And then something happened and I missed a day or whatever. And I lost my 40-day streak. And I was so bummed. I went to my son. I'm like, I lost my 40-day streak. He's like, I'm still on 46 days, Mom. I'm like, but I started to sit there and think like, oh my gosh, how motivated I am to do that. And I noticed we started doing that with the kids with their chore system. Like there's this little app that we're using and it gives them coins and they get rewards and the whole thing. And like how when we internally incentivize ourselves and like it doesn't even have, like you said, doesn't have to be actual rewards. It's just that little subtle thing of like a star or a little thing, how it can be so much more motivating. And I was sitting there thinking, I'm like, I should actually do this for more things that I'm trying to work on, like more habits or more things that I'm trying to like give myself some. And I actually Googled a bunch of apps like habit tracker, but they all seemed really boring and not as much fun as my Duolingo leaderboards and things like that. But I was like, like the stars, this is a simple way to do it. Like give yourself a little star every single day. But that we as human beings thrive in that oftentimes. Maybe not everybody, but I certainly do. I like being rewarded when I am committed and I'm doing those things that I said I'm going to do. And so, yeah, now I'm only on like day 4 of my streak in Duolingo learning Italian, but someday we'll go back up there. But yeah, I think it's super valuable. And I love that like those gold stars make such a huge difference.
It does, really. And so you're on day 4, and that's awesome, right? You
Yeah.
already got to 40, so you've proven yourself that you can do it. And so now you're back on track. It's all good. And that's the thing that you make a beautiful point about is sometimes we can like really get on ourselves about like, oh, I did my morning routine for 40 days in a row, and then life happened and I screwed up, and now it's been 3 weeks, and like, oh, what's the point? And da da da. And then we spin into this like, if I'm not going to do it perfectly, then what's the point? Because I think as entrepreneurs, we are very driven. We're very, high achieving. We're like going after it, and we can really get easily derailed if we're not doing it to the like best of our ability, right? And so learning to witness that tendency and that habit that can be, it's a very, very important skill and a quality, but it can also be to our detriment if we're just going and never slowing down.
Yeah.
And so really like integrating these little moments for yourself, whether it's throughout the day or morning routine or whatever sort of validation that you're giving yourself, that's so impactful. And it might seem silly, like, and that's maybe part of your brain of like, oh, well, what's like, really? I'm going to get some stickers. And like, who cares? You will be surprised. Like, obviously, Renee just said, like, all of my clients are adults. They all love them, and it's literally, it's one of those things that when you learn to celebrate yourself, it's so powerful because when you do that, you are validating your effort. You're witnessing yourself in the moment rather than like, oh, it'll be good enough when you do it perfectly 10 days in a row, then you get a star. No, you get a star if you took a minute for yourself before you started your day and you said, okay, this is how I want to feel today. I want to stand in strong posture. You get a star.
Yeah.
You do an hour, you get a star. Like it literally, it's one of those things that we can so quickly, we can coach and we can celebrate other people. But when it comes to ourselves, especially as high achievers, we can be really good at withholding that praise.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, even recently, I was shared like how my last launch went with my coach, and I was sharing and detailing out and whatnot. And I literally felt like the whole thing was such a celebration. Like I felt like there were so many wins in so many different ways, and so I spelled that all out. Like I came from this place of very much like in celebration, right? And his response was like, "What did you do to celebrate?" And I said, well, I felt like the whole thing was a celebration. Like there was nothing specifically tangibly, like internally, I was like, this is amazing. This is such a wonderful celebration. And he's like, no, your brain needs something to celebrate. Like it needs, like you need to actively do something in a way to help you celebrate this, not just embody celebration, but like give your brain that food of celebration. And I think I still haven't done anything, but I think it
maybe
just
later.
Maybe later. It just goes to show like our brains really do thrive on that celebration, and it feeds it. And then we feed more celebration and we feed more wins and we feed more. And I think that, and we went on a whole nother tangent right here, like talking about morning routines, but yeah, I think it's really helpful to sit and like have that moment and that space to really celebrate what we're doing and how we're showing up for ourselves.
100%. And from a biohacking perspective, what you're doing there is actually hacking your brain. Because when you're in the celebration, whether it's with one of these silly stars or whether it's the, like going to the spa or taking a break or something as simple as like, I'm going to go for an extra long walk on the beach today with my wife, or like some sort of intentional decision.
Yeah.
What you're doing when you celebrate yourself, or even just like the high five in the mirror, or whatever, what you're doing is your brain releases a rush of dopamine.
Mm-hmm.
And it loves that. It's a motivational biochemical that's like, oh, yay, me, here I go. And it
Yeah.
will propel you forward towards the next thing. But what it also does is when you release that in your brain connects whatever you just did to create that release with something incredible that it really likes. And
Mm-hmm.
so tomorrow or the next day, when you're considering doing the morning routine or celebrating yourself, it's like, yeah, we should do that. Yep, yep. And it'll like spur on the inspiration to do it, because it's like underlying, your brain is going, I just really want a little more dopamine. That'd be great.
Yeah.
So it's like craving it itself. And so it's inspiring you and motivating you to take the action, which, if it's
Mm-hmm.
doing something good, hopefully morning routine or celebrating your launch, etc., that it is really beneficial for you. So what you're doing when you intentionally like go over the top with your celebration is you are stimulating that release, which then makes it far more likely you're going to do that activity again tomorrow. So when it
Mm-hmm.
comes to the morning routine, like, yeah, I feel awesome right now. Look at me, I'm ready to go. And like in that, like go over the top the first few
Mm-hmm.
times,
Yeah.
because that really is that little like, if you want to make this action, if you want to create this new habit, this new being, this new identity of somebody who has a morning routine that you love, that shows up for yourself because you care about how you feel, like literally lean into that decision that you made to do it and celebrate yourself. And then the habit will become easier. It's
Yeah.
a hack for sure, but it's powerful.
Yeah, it's like your brain, and the more you do something, it creates those neural pathways that just become easier. And that's where looking at like habits and things like that, people struggle with like creating a habit. It's because the neural pathways are not there yet. So it's all about creating those neural pathways. And this is a really good, strong way to biohack creating the more of those neural pathways. So when you celebrate it and you make a big deal about it, like you said, it releases that dopamine and then helps your brain be like, oh, this is a good path to go down. Let's go down this one more, and just makes it easier and easier over time. So I love that. Megan, this has been amazing. Is there anything else that you feel like we left out that you want to make sure to leave our audience with?
I would say that you are the common denominator in all aspects of your life. And the more you can be intentional about how you show up for yourself and making feeling good a priority, because when you're feeling good, you become magnetic, things become lighter and easier, and you're in flow. The more you can be intentional about that, I know you are already, but the more you can really lean into that, whether that's from a meaningful morning routine perspective, creating your purposeful powerhouse practice, or just showing up for yourself with other little things, the more everything else in your life benefits. So don't let the story in your head dictate how you spend that time for yourself. And so really leaning into that, and really just knowing that you, as much as anybody, deserve your time and attention. And so that's really a powerful way to start the day. And then if you enjoyed what we talked about, I do have a little gift for everybody. It is my 3-step mini morning routine that will help you to create your own, so that you have a tool set to start with, and then intuitively you can play with based on where you're at in your day and in your cycle and your energy level. And so that you have the framework, and then you get to kind of play within that. So definitely would love to connect over that way. And that way, if you have any questions about what we shared or hearing your takeaways, would be incredible. So I'd love for you to grab that.
Awesome. Awesome. And then where can people find you if they want to follow you and get in touch? Other than that, like and we'll make sure that's linked up in the show notes so people have that. But if they want to follow you on Instagram or Facebook or wherever on the internets, how can they find you?
Yes, come over and hang out on Instagram. I'm quite an incredible dancer and I share lots of value. No, I'm sort of joking, not really. Lots of
Well,
fun
I
tips
was
into
even
it.
thinking too, like, I mean, even for movement, like dancing can be one of those things that's like, I mean, dancing in and of itself has so many benefits. And I think as mom and as women, we like sometimes undervalue that. And so I oftentimes am like dancing very silly around my house, and my kids are like, Mom. And now I'm entering into the like preteen phase. And so I'm like, hey, get ready. I will be so
Oh.
embarrassing over the next few years. But it's like when we just let ourselves be and let our self be authentic and like own that and just like move. Anyway, but yeah, dancing definitely makes a big difference. But so go ahead.
It does. No, I love what you're saying there. And I love that you're making your kids cringe. That's freaking hilarious. Because I definitely remembered, I was like, oh my God, stop. This is so embarrassing. No, but I really want to back that point up, because there is so much of an elegance and a sensuality with movement and with dance. And especially as women, it's a really beautiful way for us to activate our second chakra, tap into your emotions, and kind of really move in that fluid, beautiful way. So yes, there's lots of that, lots of other fun stuff. And so come over and hang out on Instagram. Instagram, it is I am Megan Nolan. And so I'd love to hear your takeaways from the episode and yeah, have a little dance party.
Yeah, yeah. Megan, thank you so much for showing up. I know you have lots of other things coming up. We'll make sure to link those all up if you guys want to go check out what Megan's got going on and all of that. We would love for you to do that and to be a part of that. And I hope you have a fabulous day.
Thanks, you too. Great to connect.